Welcome back to Conversation by IYC. Yachting is, at its core, a deeply personal experience. It's about dreams, lifestyles, and decisions that often carry both emotional and financial weight. And yet, in an era increasingly dominated by AI, automated valuations, and algorithm-driven advice, one thing remains irreplaceable: trust. Today, I'm joined by our U.S. Sales and Charter Director, Frankie Maxwell. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
And we'll be exploring why human expertise still sits at the heart of yacht transactions and how trust is built, maintained, and ultimately earned in today's market. So, Frankie, what elements of the broker-client relationship most strongly influence trust?
I do think that there is a strong emphasis on building relationships as a broker. We are in a very relational business. The most successful brokers I find really listen and they understand the assignment, asking questions and regularly communicating with the client and sending them the information that resonates with them is really important. Obviously, if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it. You can't drop the ball, not even once, because that erodes trust. But basically, yeah, I would say doing what you say you're going to do, understanding the assignment, and communicating regularly is really what helps to build trust.
Yeah.
Because without that, you don't really understand what it is the client is looking for.
But how long do you think it realistically takes to build that trust?
That, I think, really depends on the client. Some people are obviously more trusting than others. And sometimes a broker and a client will just automatically click. But realistically, I would say 2 transactions to really have a strong trust.
Can you recall a moment or a transaction where trust directly changed the outcome of a deal?
Yes. So I did work with a broker who had a client, a great repeat client that the client knew and trusted that he would always sell him a boat that he would be able to turn around and make money on. And so because he knew that this broker understood the assignment, he would buy boats without even seeing the boats.
Oh, wow.
Because he trusted that this broker had such insights and correctly understood what the resale value would be and whether it was what the client was directly asking him to find. And they did many transactions together over the years. And he never sold him a boat that he lost money on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about artificial intelligence a little bit and automation that are definitely entering every industry. We can't ignore that.
No.
But how is it affecting yacht sales and client perception?
I do think that our clientele they think that they're more knowledgeable because they are utilizing AI and they have so much information available to them. So we get a lot more questions maybe. But I don't think that it is going to replace the brokers in any way. I think that it is, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think too much information becomes like a distraction and it can be overwhelming. And the majority of our clients, I don't think that they really want to be yacht brokers. I don't think they want to spend their time trying to learn every aspect of this industry. That's not what it is for them. I also think that a lot of people, myself included, are kind of wary and over AI. We were really hungry for human interaction. And so the brokers that are really still focusing on only using AI for things that are not relational. So, cross-referencing data and, be more efficient and things like that. That's great. But otherwise, I think that people are really focused more on relationships than ever. As far as our marketing, it is having a big effect. I think that e-commerce is changing. So where we were really heavily focused on SEO, now we're looking more at, I think they call it GEO. So it's generative engine optimism. So it's when you ask ChatGPT, obviously that's important when we're marketing a vessel for one of our sellers. So IYC is doing a great job of staying ahead on that and excelling.
But do you think ultimately AI tools are enhancing trust or are they paradoxically eroding it? You mentioned that we're getting asked more questions. Is that a tool in the end that allows us to give the right answers, or is having too many questions something that can kind of have some fragility in terms of the trust we're building?
I think it can erode trust. And I think it can erode trust, especially when people are lazy and they just take, AI results and forward it along and they don't interpret it and they don't put it in their own tone.
Yeah.
And you're not fooling anybody. People know when I get a response that's clearly AI, I know that this does not sound like my broker, right? I think it's very important to be authentic. And to be confident. The best brokers are confident brokers, and that means speaking in your own language, in your own tone. So yeah, it can definitely erode trust.
So in that case, where does authenticity step in as the differentiator?
I think that there is no replacement for human experience. If I can tell you that I have lived it, I have experienced it, I have overcome this challenge previously, there's no AI that really can do that. AI does not have instincts, which I think instincts are extremely important. It also does not have emotional intelligence, which a lot of times during a new build process or a challenging sale, or if you're on charter and something unexpected happens, you're not just a broker. In a way, you're also, a therapist, a friend. So I think that it is really important to build relationships with your clients, to understand what it is that they need from you, and to consistently be there to provide it, whatever it is they need.
And does this access to information ultimately complicate decision making for our clients?
I think it can, because I think information overload is a very real thing. And that's why it's so important for the brokers to ask the right questions and to really listen to what the clients are saying, but also what the clients aren't saying, which is something that only a human can do. Only a human can understand what they haven't said. AI is only answering what you've already directly asked it very specifically. And there's a lot of information in what people don't say. So yes, I think that it can complicate. Generally, I'm a mom, and I remember when my children were little, they would say, people really need 3 options. Anything more than 3 options can become overwhelming and delay the decision-making process. Now, I'm not saying give somebody 3 yacht options and expect them to buy, but, sending them things that are not relevant or that would not suit how these people want to utilize their vessel just becomes it distracts and it prolongs the process.
And we've touched on a few, but what do you think ultimately are those touch points where the human interaction is irreplaceable and will continue to be irreplaceable?
I mean, I think it's important for our clients to understand what the motivation for the client is, what it is that they're trying to fulfill in this process. So if it's, a lifelong dream, if it's a status thing, if it's spending more time with their family because they're realizing that time is precious. All of those things are important touch points. I also find that the most successful brokers, they do become friends with their clients and they become the go-to person for everything yachting related.
Yeah.
So not just the purchase or the sale of the vessel, but helping them with finding crew and maintenance and where should I take my yacht this summer and, so many different things. Anytime the client has any question, whether it has anything directly related to the vessel they own now or just in general, they pick up the phone and they call that broker because that broker is their yacht guy. And I think that keeps the relationship and the communication ongoing and frequent, because if you only ever call your client when they're looking to sell or buy, that erodes trust also. So keeping the always being helpful and keeping the communication ongoing, I think is great. And that's what builds lifelong clients and repeat clients.
And as the industry evolves, what do you think will differentiate a great broker from an average one?
I do think it's taking the time to do the things that everybody else has stopped doing. So a really good example of this. Before the holidays, I noticed I got like 10 Christmas cards, and I used to get like 100 Christmas cards. But the impact of the 10 Christmas cards that I did get was so large, because before maybe I wouldn't even notice who sent one and who didn't send one. But when you're only receiving 10, I say, oh, this person really cared to send me a Christmas card and to write a note. So I said to my brokers, please make sure that you handwrite your Christmas cards and you send them to your clients, because it will have a bigger impact than it ever has before, because so many people have moved away from that, or they're sending digital cards, or they're, whatever. One of my brokers did do that. And as a result of his Christmas card, a past client reached out to him. Oh, I got your Christmas card. They were catching up. They were talking about the family. The kids were now having kids. So the principals had become grandparents, and they booked a very large charter just like that. And I believe that it was the Christmas card that sparked the conversation that resulted in that big charter booking.
And Frankie, I have 5 quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
They're overthinking. Ready?
Yes.
Sunrise or sunset at anchor?
Absolutely sunset. I'm not getting up early in a yacht. Never.
Salt on your skin or sun on your face?
Sun on my face.
Warm Mediterranean breeze or the Caribbean trade winds?
Warm Mediterranean breeze.
Engines off or cruising at full speed?
Oh, no, I like full speed.
And finally, a destination that you'll never tire of?
I really love New England in the summer.
Perfect. Thank you, Frankie.
You're welcome.